desktop audio so that you guys can hear everything. Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to see
post made by none other
exactly what was going on.
As we
and I have
continue
a
to
couple
work
of other,
towards making
14
Shadowlands
videos
worth
I
the
wanna look at
wait,
with you guys
we
too.
have an update on several changes and improvements players can expect to see coming to the beta over the next few weeks. The Maw is intended to be a desolate and brutal domain of the Jailer, and not a place any soul in the Warcraft cosmos ever hopes to visit. But this is, after all, a video game, and telling that story can't come at the expense of creating a fun environment for adventurers. That is true, I agree with that. We've heard feedback that this content is currently falling short of that mark, and we agree. We're working to increase the visual distinction and combat variety across areas in the Maw, as well as exploring adding new localized events and world interactions. This is great. This is exactly what everybody wanted to hear. We also want to give players who journey into the Maw a bit more direction while still preserving the sandbox roots of the Maw gameplay. Players will venture into the Maw weekly to rescue souls in the aid of restoring their covenants, and their mysterious broker Venari offers a range of cosmetic convenience and power rewards in exchange for Stygia. Okay.
So, I don't know if you guys actually know the premise for this, but the big thing was that the Maw was just kind of there, and they weren't really doing anything with it. So it looked like it was going to be a place that you just did like a bunch of dailies, rather than having it really fit any of the story. And a lot of people were upset because they put so much lore around the Maw, and they put so much into making it look neat, that people were upset that it wasn't actually going to have anything to do with the expansion or the gameplay, and that it wouldn't absolutely be necessary except for those dailies. So the fact that they're actually adding this stuff in is a big deal. So that's one thing that people are actually excited about. So repeatedly when watching Asmon, I raise one eyebrow. I used to, but I'm not as bad about it anymore. Rin is visually compelling. I know, that's what I'm saying. It's just, the Tempest is amazing, and I wish there were more quests and more things to do there as well, instead of just hunts, too. Because they broke promises again, yeah. That's actually one of the nice things that they're doing, so it's like they changed their tone after the Warcraft 3 stuff. So with Warcraft 3, if you wanted a refund, they pretty much, like, banned you. And then if you got your refund by, like, if you went through, like a third party with your credit card and stuff, and they found out that you had gotten your refund, they were essentially like banning you for that too. So, but for Shadowlands, they are refunding people, which is good. I don't know. But yeah, so that portion of the update is actually a good thing.
I think this is good. Like, this is obviously good. There's nothing bad to say about this. I think that it's an overall massive positive, and I'm very happy that Blizzard is making the decisions that they are. I have really nothing negative to say about this, and I'm very happy that Blizzard is doing what they're doing. This is amazing, and I'm very glad to see it. Islands 2.0. They just said what they plan. We need to see what's actually done. That's actually very true, too. And so let's go back to the more contentious thing, which is the conduits. So we've received a lot of feedback about the conduit system.
Many of you have expressed
concerns that the current system will unreasonably limit experimentation and multi-spec play early on in the expansion. While this existing weekly conduit cooldown may provide sufficient flexibility once players have all 3 soulbinds fully unlocked, we agree that it is initially too limiting. A single weekly reset fails to draw any distinction between someone who only wants to adjust a single conduit and someone who wants to clear and rebuild their entire soulbind tree. So basically, what they're saying here is that overall, it's initially too limiting. In my opinion, I think that it's going to be limiting the entire time. So the current system will unreasonably limit experimentation and multi-spec play early in the expansion. Yeah, I think obviously it's going to be worse early in the expansion than at the end, because yeah, you're not going to have all 3 of the soulbinds up. Yeah, of course. Wait, we like Blizzard again? Well, no, it's just like, it's not about we like or we don't like. Don't just listen to me and have me tell you what to think.
See, the only thing that two things about this is that, yeah, it's always like a love-hate relationship with Blizz. It's so funny. Like, there were people that were like, oh my god, it's so great that they're delaying Shadowlands. Things are going to be a lot better, you know, whatever. And then there were some other people who were like, oh, I already took off of work, so, you know, hate Blizz. And then, you know, people are either happy with the updates or they're unhappy with the updates. And it's always like a flavor of the month thing as to whether or not you actually are on par with Blizz at the moment, or like, you know, whatever. One thing I will say about the conduits is the conduit system as a whole is kind of like a talent tree. So the only thing that's kind of irritating with the talent tree for this is it's really time gated. And you're absolutely, like, you would want to pick certain things based on whatever spec you are. And so, yeah, it would be hard, especially at the beginning of the expansion, to redo your tree if needed for a different spec or whatever. Hey, Katie. Hey, hey, Cass, what's up? Yeah, I would never force anyone to play if they didn't want to either. But it's going to be hard to change regardless, just because it's already being time gated. Like, they were looking at it being 13 weeks to get your last ability. So if you have to wait that long to get your last ability, and then you decide to change things up, especially the entire conduit and the entire tree, yeah, that's going to take a long time. Like, even if you just want to try something out, even if it's not a completely different spec, that does suck. But at the same time, I can see where they're trying to go with it. I think the big thing thus making it always useful to have, that was going to be the way you could reset it. I don't know if they're going to do that this way anymore. That's what I'm confused about. Because the way that it was being explained previously was that it would be super time gated, and if you wanted to change one, you could change one, but then it would be time gated and you have to wait another week before you changed the next one. So, I don't really know. That's why I was excited to read this update, or to hear about this update.
Think for yourself. Like, do you agree with what they're saying or not? You don't need me to dictate your opinion to you, okay? And that's basically it. I always want to think, yeah, guys, that's basically it. So I don't really think that this is I don't think this is really a great system. And well, let me read out the change, and then we'll talk about it, okay? In an upcoming build, we will be replacing the weekly cooldown on changing conduits with a more flexible system. When first unlocked,
there you go.
The Forge of Bonds will be charged with 10 conduit energy, and placing a conduit into a socket will consume a single charge. Conduit energy recharges at the rate of one per day, up to a cap of 10, and adding a new conduit to your collection immediately restores 1 conduit energy as well. Well, that's just great. That's what we all wanted, right? Is this what we want? We wanted another system. See, does anybody ever think of the casual players whenever we look at this?
It just sounds so complicated. I don't like it either. It sounds so complicated. Like, what? We will be replacing the weekly cooldown on changing conduits. I knew it was a weekly cooldown. That's what I thought. That's what I was trying to say. On changing conduits with a more flexible system. When first unlocked, the Forge of Bonds will be charged with 10 conduit energy, and placing a conduit into a socket will consume a single charge. Conduit energy recharges at the rate of 1 per day up to a cap of 10, and adding a new conduit to your collection immediately. That just sounds so convoluted. And the only reason why they're even having the conduit, the only reason why they're even adding content like this, is because they don't want to have a content drought, and they're not exactly sure where to go from here, and they're not very good at balancing their classes, obviously, so they're trying to use the conduits to, like, make each spec whole. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, so let's say you have, like, a bard, for instance, and let's say Square knew that the bard was performing at a low level. So they would make this talent tree that people could have access to, and you could pick and choose talents that could possibly make your class or job better. So if you were a bard and you wanted more damage, you would put your conduit, your points into certain parts of this talent tree in the conduit, which would make your bard better. So instead of fixing the class, they're giving you a band-aid, essentially. And they're trying to make it an interesting way to do so. And the other part that's tough about it is that they're adding content that people don't really want to do instead of actually fixing the balancing for classes. So it's just another talent tree. You're just like picking, and it's making you seem like you have neat abilities. So like I was trying to explain it this way before. So like in FF10, when you have this sphere grid and you're able to like follow the sphere grid map in a certain way, picking the abilities that you like, and it gives you the impression that you're actually like picking and choosing different directions for your class, but you're not really. That's essentially what this is. So it seems like you're able to choose abilities that might make your class better rather than them actually raw balancing them. But in all reality, you're not, because there's going to be a cookie cutter set of abilities that are the best abilities in the conduit tree. If that makes sense. It's like the FF10 sphere grid.
Because for me, this is...
So you would need to swap... So let's say there are certain abilities that are better for each spec. So let's say there's a meta for DPS, but there's also a meta for heals, and there's also a meta for tanks. So let's say there's 3 different metas, and you can use the same conduit, but you would want to use different conduit points. So like for a shaman, you can either DPS or heal. Or for a druid, you can either DPS, heal, or tank. So you would want to change it for each thing. So people were upset that it was going to take so long to change it because of the gating, but the way they're trying to fix it is catering more to like a casual player with these charges than anything else. So people are upset about that, and then at the same time, it's just making it complicated. Like, it's complicated even trying to explain.
It's just like, this is complicated. Like,
right.
It's just complicated.
Yeah, that's what I just said.
Why is it complicated?
It's just complicated. It doesn't make sense.
Why can't people just change it and play the game the way they want? Like, I don't understand. Like, there's like this weird convoluted fucking charge system with conduit energy.
Like, why?
Like, who's asking for this?
Nobody.
Who wants this?
No one.
Like this.
No one wants conduits in general. They don't want a band-aid to fix classes. They don't want just some kind of time-gated content that really isn't relevant to the expansion, that's literally there as another thing to farm and figure out. Nobody wants this. Get rid of conduits altogether and just have the covenants, and have the covenants be part of a story, and just have each covenant give a cool ability that isn't necessarily going to be a meta ability. Just have it be a cool ability that you can use out when you're leveling. It doesn't need to be a whole conduit tree. I don't understand. I don't understand. Like, just be like, okay, you know, like Revendreth. So have you guys watched all of the videos? So you have, so like Revendreth, the idea behind Revendreth would be so cool. You know what I mean? So the main idea is that, for the lore, so Sylvanas has made a deal with a jailer in the Maw, which is making it so that as many souls as she can get to go into the Maw are going to the Maw. So all of these other areas in essentially the afterlife or the Shadowlands aren't getting the souls that they need for their environments to prosper and still be these environments, right? So the story is that each area is having to like sacrifice certain things, like Ursock's soul in Ardenweald, and then you have in Revendreth, people have to like, they have their little soul things that they have to turn into to the environment, and then if you don't, you're essentially like you're pretty much killed because you're hoarding the soul stuff for yourself, because it's almost like mana for people. Like they feel like they need it, like blood elves are to mana, or like the wretched or whatever. And so each area has this really cool lore, right? So just keep the area with the really cool lore, pick one for your character that ends up being the one that you do like dailies for, or something like that, to get rep up for something cool, like a cool mount, like a cool ability for while you're leveling, or just like a different story that you could have. Don't make it so that you have to have a covenant, then a conduit, then picking your conduit abilities. It's too much, and it doesn't make sense, and it just, like, there's no reason for it.
This is what I think is so stupid. Is like there's nobody that's like sitting around and asking for this, right? Obviously, people are saying I do, right? Whatever. But nobody's asking for this realistically. Let me read the last paragraph here. Our goal with this change is to ensure that especially when players are acquiring new conduits and only have access to a small number of soulbinds and conduit slots, all players feel free to try out new upgrades and adjust their soulbinds to support multiple specializations or activities. After your initial collection period for a given character, 7+ swaps per week should allow for more adaptation to suit specific roles and activities while still requiring thoughtful decisions on how to customize each soulbind for your playstyle preferences. I'm sorry, but I think this is stupid.
It is stupid.
You know, players are hearth back to the city.
Like, I don't like talking badly about anything. I really don't. But it's stupid. Right. Which, even if they'd integrated it into leveling, just the whole way that they're trying to accomplish it doesn't make sense. Can we stop at thoughtful decisions? Yeah, right? It just doesn't make sense. I don't know. Like, I don't know what to say about it. It just doesn't make sense.
For every boss to optimize soulbinds? That doesn't happen. Like, can you please stop making up this, like, imaginary scenario where these normal mode raiders are all hearthing back every single fight to change their talents? That doesn't happen. Like, of course, some people change their talents for fights if they're very substantial. Yeah, every once in a while they do. But if you look at most people...
Like, if you have single target versus AoE talents, you can change. What's irritating, though, is what's irritating about that is that they actually made it so that you had to be in, like, the rest area or the city or whatever to be able to do that. That was dumb. Remember when they had the consumables that you could use to change one? While you were still in a raid, the consumables, and you had to use the consumable to be able to change a talent per fight, and they were like super expensive on the AH. Do they still exist? I haven't played in a long time. Yeah, Tome of Knowledge. I just, like, why?
Most people's heroic clears, they're using the same talents on every boss because they're lazy.
Yeah,
and it doesn't really matter that much.
One of the only things that scribes can make that actually matters since they got rid of glyphs. Like, hey Ishtar, what's up? If they removed them at Shadowlands, I don't know. I just
like this happens all the time. Yeah, this is only a problem for Mythic players. And the thing is, if this is only a problem for Mythic players, and the majority of people that are Mythic players that at least I'm seeing the feedback from, the majority of Mythic players are saying they don't want this.
No,
so why are you making a throttling system with the intent of making it easier for Mythic players whenever Mythic players themselves are telling you that they don't want the throttling system because it doesn't make it easier?
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make any sense, man.
It's not even that it doesn't make it easier, it just doesn't make sense. So on top of changing your talents, people are going to want to change their conduits too, and it's just the whole thing is so convoluted. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I don't understand this at all. Players optimizing the fun out of the game? Well, because Blizzard's taking the fun out of the game. Talents can be changed in raid. Well, yeah, of course, but
only
like there's
plenty
of people,
like I said.
I'm sorry, but like I've seen people do raids and they don't change their talents every fucking fight.
No,
and
they
if
don't.
they do, that means their talents are that much better that they feel like they should. Like I dislike this idea that the way that you're going to create identity for your class is to be shit.
Maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm reeing because I'm irritable today. Maybe that's it. Maybe I'm reeing because I'm just like, bleh. You know what I mean? Does it seem like that, or does it seem like my arguments are actually valid? Or not even arguments, but does it seem like what I'm saying is actually valid? Because I'm not sure. Like, I feel like they're valid, but at the same time, I also feel like I'm being irritable. And I honestly don't even think that this is just for the people that want to min-max or the meta. I think that everybody's going to be irritated with this. So, what are my issues? Oh, I'm just talking about the dev updates. Thinking they're silly and just kind of convoluted and complicated.
At certain things. Like, this just does not seem like a fun gameplay alternative to me.
It doesn't.
This does not seem enjoyable to me.
It's not.
Like, oh wow, now my character is artificially weaker at this situation because this system that Blizzard has created to throttle me changing my character is preventing me from playing at the optimum way because of an arbitrary time gating mechanic.
Right.
Like, yes,
that's what I just
sorry.
said.
I think this is fucking stupid.
Because it's a stupid time gating mechanic that nobody wants to do.
For people that I don't even think exist.
No.
Like, I would love to see the fucking, the Warcraft logs parses of these people that are talking about how it's such a big problem that they have to respec every fight. I bet they probably use the same fucking gear and the same talents every single time they raid. If they do it all. If they raid at all.
I can't watch this anymore because it's just making me angry.